Everyone, I think we're going to start the rest of the program for tonight. We're waiting for dessert to be served, just so that you can have a sweet while I talk. And I want to begin, if I could, just by asking if we could just share our gratitude to Robbie, Mark, Tim, and Katie, who are largely responsible for organizing both the Emeritus program and also this event tonight. So if you could just join me. I mean, what a lovely evening, right? It's just given me an opportunity to reunite with people that I've had a chance to meet over my tenure, and it's also given me a chance to connect with individuals that I have not met before. So just really a special night, and thank you for making this all happen. So the 1953 Society was established in 2025, and it confers the highest recognition upon distinguished members of the CRMS community by recognizing their contributions, honoring their legacies, and affirming their enduring place in the school's history. Tonight, we honor the first 24 inductees to the 1953 Society of Colorado Rocky Mountain School. Each individual has left their lasting mark on this school. Our hope is that through this society, their legacy will be remembered by generations to come. Our story begins with two teachers at the Putney School in Vermont. John, a veteran of World War II, had attended Bowdoin College before embarking on a career as an educator. And Anne had taught at Shady Hill and Bancroft School before joining John at Putney as a math teacher. After 16 years at Putney, they were true believers in Carmelina Hinton's educational model, and they felt convinced that the Putney idea needed to spread. So in the spring of 1951, they made, in John's words, the big decision to start a school of a similar nature in the West. John later wrote, "We had a dream of a school like Putney with a Western flavor in the Rocky Mountains." The Holdens set about to make a reality their dream for a school with very high academic goals that demanded of its students and faculty a life full of hard, intellectual, physical, artistic, and creative endeavor. The Holdens were by no means radicals, but they did have a radical educational philosophy to build a school that would be, in their words, an antidote to modern easy living. The Holdens in 1953 shared in their educational plan a crystal clear vision. Colorado Rocky Mountain School would serve college-bound students who were full of a spirit of adventure. They envisioned a school where the enthusiasm students had for scholarship and the adventure of living will carry into the classroom, where the academic day would include intellectual, artistic, manual, and athletic pursuits that went far beyond college preparation but were essential to a full and self-sufficient adult life. In the fall of 1953, Colorado Rocky Mountain School opened its doors along the main road that led to the rugged ranching and mining town of Carbondale in the shadow of Mount Sopris. Here, they faced a fundamental challenge. How do you turn an educational philosophy into reality in a relatively remote area of the West with little money available? This is where the Holdens' genius really showed. Their enthusiasm for their educational beliefs and capacity to invite people into their vision and persuade them to bring their best was John and Anne's superpower. It didn't hurt that they had a rare eye for talent and good people. A school is only as strong as the people who make up the community, even one situated in as beautiful a setting as this, and with as compelling a vision as the Holdens. John and Ann credited much of the school's success to a set of extraordinary teachers, but the long-term sustainability of the vision came from one important decision: to move from being renters to property owners of the Bar Fork Ranch. John secured the support of benefactors and members of the community that would lay the foundation for Colorado Rocky Mountain School. He built an initial board of trustees that included Harold Shorty Pabst, one-time Aspen mayor and Valley property owner, and Henry Stein, a rancher from Aspen by way of Chicago, whose daughter Pat we also recognize this evening. Shorty was actually 6'4", according to John. And he loved the Holden's educational vision. Shorty facilitated the transfer of the 350-acre Bar Fork Ranch he owned next to the school's original 10 acres at a steep discount to the school. The ranch sat on the confluence of the Crystal and the Roaring Fork rivers and derived its name from its brand of a bar and a fork, representing the merger of these two rivers into one. The ranch's barn was notable for its triangular roof, which was inspired by the Buddhist temples that the ranch's owner saw in his time in the Navy in Siam. John and Ann recruited a host of remarkable people to share their vision and bring their school to life. The Holdens opened Colorado Rocky Mountain School with 16 students and 8 faculty that first year. Many more would follow over the next 70 years. And it is the stories of some of these truly remarkable individuals we celebrate and share tonight. They recruited Charlotte Jossman, affectionately known as Jossie, with whom they had taught at Putney, to be their director of studies. Jossie held a PhD in linguistics from the University of Berlin and had been a champion discus thrower before Hitler made sport into propaganda. John described Jossie as a language teacher whose enthusiasm for real scholarship affected the whole school. Jossie continued in her role until her untimely death in 1963. Today, the school's main academic building bears her name, symbolizing her contribution to the school's academic program and her impact on the students. Joe Frank was a native of New York City, one of the youngest graduates of Columbia University. John described Joe as teaching French and Spanish with enthusiasm for thoroughness and a great love of literature. And why not? He was a multilinguist. Joe also died early, but not before leaving an indelible mark on his students and colleagues. As one former student put it, Joe strongly believed that a CRMS education was a privilege and wanted students to commit to taking full advantage of it. He didn't hold back in letting us know if he felt that we were not serious or not reaching our full potential. And then there's the amazing story of Steve Shanzer, living in Aspen, who had heard about the Holdens and their new school. That first summer, he offered to teach French and German. Originally from Vienna, Steve had been a prisoner of the Russians in World War I, where he learned jewelry making by shaping American silver dollars. He later narrowly escaped occupied France in World War II before joining his family in the U.S. Soon after arriving at CRMS, Steve was also offering jewelry making as an evening activity, where it later became a staple of the school's arts curriculum. And perhaps most remarkably, John and Ann convinced Wells Kerr, the Emeritus Dean of Phillips Exeter Academy, to come to this remote region of Colorado to teach, of all things, Shakespeare. According to John, Wells's enthusiasm for his subject and his demand that each student memorize a goodly piece of the bard's own words offer a refreshing antidote to self-expression that the students themselves appreciated. Many alumni remark that even today they remember the lines memorized in Wells's class. Few heads nodding. The twist? Wells had actually dismissed John as a student from Exeter years earlier. Now, his former student was inviting him to the Roaring Fork Valley to help build something entirely new. Jack and Barb Snob agreed to join the Holdens on the CRMS faculty soon after the founding and arrived in 1955. Barb had graduated from Vassar College and wanted to teach history and Latin. Jack, a bomber in World War II and handy with explosives, would take students with him for avalanche mitigation detonations. I'm sure that was all for work. He had taught previously at Fountain Valley School and then worked as a geographer for Central Intelligence. He was also captain of the Dartmouth ski team and an accomplished rider, skills that come in handy at a place like CRMS. Barb taught American history and is remembered fondly as a wonderful teacher who was cute, quick, and funny. Barb and Jack actually taught next to each other in the barn with a divider between their classrooms, able to hear one another at their craft throughout the day. The Snobbles served as the pillars of the CRMS community until leaving not long after the Holdens in 1969. Barb, however, continued to return and over alumni weekends shared pictures and helped preserve the school's history up until her recent passing. Marilyn Fiscus joined CRMS at the beginning in 1953 as a lunch cook, working in that capacity for 45 years until her retirement in 1998. Marilyn once visited an American Studies class when they were reading The Grapes of Wrath and spoke of raising a child in eastern Colorado during the Dust Bowl. She had to put cheesecloth over the cradle to keep the baby from suffocating. Marilyn and her husband pioneered at Spring Gulch when it was a mining camp. And according to former faculty Sue Laven, Marilyn wanted to be pictured with her mixing bowl because she loved baking the bread that gave the community so much pleasure. The Holdens met Paula Nashow and her family at a neighbor's house one summer evening in 1953. According to John, Paula and her 4 children sang pure folk songs in the purest way possible. Clean, clear, and absolutely unadorned. A few days later, Paula and her youngest son, Mike, stopped by the log house. She had been teaching in Grand Junction, but wanted to remain in the valley for the winter so Mike could attend the school. The Holdens hired Paula as school secretary and folk song teacher to start September 1st in the school's inaugural year. Paula continued her service at CRMS until 1976. Rolene Stricker, served on the CRMS faculty as an English and religion teacher for 17 years, from 1958 to 1975. She was also a parent while her 4 children attended CRMS in the 1970s. Her place on the Crystal River was, according to former teacher and head of school at Rubovitz, a paradise with teepee, ducks, an irrigation ditch, and a dining room table only inches off the floor, which demanded all the New England patience and good breeding Will's cur could muster not to complain of the physical tortures dinner guests had to endure when invited to her place for dinner. We students and teachers, according to Ed Rubovitz, learned much about teaching and about being a human being from both Rolene and Wells. Pat Bender was born in Denver and returned to Colorado after college, moving to the Valley through her connections with the Perry family. She met her husband, Bill, also a rancher, not long after, and they married in 1954. Pat joined the CRMS faculty in 1961 and served for over 40 years in a number of roles, including Assistant Director of Studies, Secretary of the Board of Trustees, and Alumni Relations. Pat was heavily involved in local Valley community organizations, such as the Methodist Church and the Holy Cross Cattlewomen's Association. A passionate, lifelong educator, Leanne Eustace, left a deeply influential legacy on schools up and down the Roaring Fork Valley, but none more so than at Colorado Rocky Mountain School. Leanne moved to Carbondale with her husband George in 1965, joining the CRMS faculty. And although she left the faculty after 15 years, Leanne stayed closely connected to the school as a trustee, serving over 3 separate terms and a total of 31 years on the board. A graduate of Vassar and an honorary alumna of the class of 1968, Leanne missed only one graduation between 1965 and 2015. Adele Haas, who's with us today, arrived at CRMS in 1962. For over 3 decades, she served in several capacities, most notably as a French teacher and as the alumni and parent coordinator, a role that embodied her natural desire to get to know each student personally and by association, their families. She is a deeply loved pillar of the CRMS community and continues to embolden the CRMS mission through local volunteerism, environmental stewardship, and her insatiable curiosity in the human spirit. As a longtime Carbondale resident, she took particular interest in integrating CRMS into the broader Roaring Fork Valley community. Adele is an honorary alumna of the class of 1965. Yes. A veteran of the Korean War, Jean Aper served on the CRMS faculty from 1968 to 1989. He was deeply involved in the outdoor program, helping to lead new student wilderness orientation and pioneering new routes on spring trip in Utah's canyon lands. Jean enjoyed the physical work of maintaining the school's campus and could often be seen in the afternoon driving the school tractor, pushing dirt, moving lumber, and digging ditches. His spirit of adventure and love for hard work perfectly encapsulated the spirit of CRMS. The class of 1960 experienced CRMS as a pivotal moment in the school's and the country's history, When they arrived as new students, CRMS was still an idea being built from the ground up. By the time they left, this class of 1960, the school was well on its way to being an established school, and it effectively doubled in enrollment. A reflection of how quickly the school was now maturing and growing. In 1957, the student body of the whole school was 60 students. By 1960, 3 years later, the school's graduating class was 37 students. During their tenure, the class of 1960 saw the rise of the Cold War and the threat of McCarthyism. One member of this class, Mary Woodford Graves, had the principled courage to speak out against the injustices of McCarthyism at an all-school meeting. An example in leadership that continues to resonate today with those in the audience. And more on Mary in a moment. Raised in Pasadena, Bill Moore had a passion for exploring the outdoors, which led him as far afield as Afghanistan and India, and ultimately back to Carbondale, where he found work at the Perry's Ranch. There, Bill met Lorna Grindley, currently a trustee of CRMS, who's joining us tonight, while she taught at the school summer program. CRMS was always close to his heart, and Bill was active within the alumni community, serving on the alumni board and as a trustee from 1989 to 1998. Bill passed in May 2023, the same month as his classmate Pat Stein Spitzmiller. Pat was born in Chicago and moved with her family to Aspen at the age of 10, where she fell in love with the Colorado outdoors. Her father, Henry Stein, was an original member of the CRMS Board of Trustees. I think that was new to some family members. When it came time for high school, Pat did not follow her sisters to the Ethel Walker School in Connecticut, instead opting to attend CRMS about 30 miles from her family's ranch. Pat is fondly remembered by her classmates as a peacemaker and the one among her peers who always sought to patch up differences. Pat maintained her love for the outdoors throughout her life, ultimately returning to Colorado and settling in Summit County. Noel Congdon and her husband Tom suffered the ultimate tragedy when their daughter Natasha died on a school-led fall trip in 1978. Former head of school Chris Babbs, who's a current trustee, wrote this about Noe. She somehow transformed her personal grief into a mission to save the school and ensure its survival in keeping with the best definition of the school's mission. And she succeeded in doing that. It has, for me, remained the best model of leadership in action that I have ever encountered. For that, the school and I have forever been in her debt. Noe served as a CRMS trustee for 9 years, from 1978 to 1987, chairing the board for 6 of those years. And then Tom Congdon succeeded Noe and served on the CRMS board from 1989 to 1998. And along with Todger Anderson and Caleb Gates, Tom founded the CRMS Foundation, the school's permanent endowment. Tom and Noe seeded the foundation with an initial gift of $160,000. Today, through investments and contributions, the CRMS Foundation now oversees an endowment of more than $35 million. A school's best standard bearers are its alumni, forged by the school's mission and ethos. These individuals go out into the world spreading the lessons and principles of their alma mater. If fortune has it, these individuals return to their alma mater as volunteers to lead the school as trustees, while embodying the school's values and guiding it forward to serve future generations. In no other school is this example as profound or indelible as the leadership CRMS alumni have demonstrated at the trustee level. Tony Sharon served on the CRMS alumni board from 1990 to 1996, and as a CRMS trustee from 1996 until his passing in 2021. Tony had a tumultuous life, and it wasn't until a family friend connected him to John Holden and CRMS that this school was able to change his trajectory. With encouragement from Jack Snobble, Tony joined the Navy in 1963, where he served for 23 years. Tony later reflected, "At CRMS, I learned to climb, ski, and do all the things I had never experienced before. Later, when I was in Vietnam, I had plenty of exposure to dangerous situations, and I was scared. But I had been scared before at CRMS." I love that. And I drew upon that strength. Tony went on to a successful career in finance, and this financial acumen would later help CRMS navigate the uncertainty that comes with challenging financial times that we all encounter at some point. Mary Whitford Graves, with us here tonight, served as a trustee from 1998 to 2007, chairing the board from 2003 to 2006. During her time on the board, the school confronted exceptionally challenging financial circumstances, and as a result, had to make some difficult decisions that ultimately rescued the school financially. In the words of former head of school, Andrew Mankey, also with us tonight, Mary was a wonderfully present and supportive board chair and an inspiring leader at a time when the school needed her wisdom, passion, courage, and expertise to deepen and broaden the help of CRMS. Mary also led the search that resulted in the hiring of the longest tenured head of school at CRMS. I don't know why we included that, but that's great. Yes, that's me, by the way. Special. Way to go, Mary. So Ted Hepp graduated from Colorado Rocky Mountain School in 1961 and was likely in the audience for Mary's speech on McCarthyism. Ted believed deeply in the Holden's approach to education and felt that CRMS offered an environment that let students learn in an extraordinary way. For Ted, CRMS creates an individual who can become a major contributor to our society, challenging norms in a thoughtful way. Ted was passionate about travel and conservation causes. He joined the board in 2003 and served as a trustee until shortly before his passing in 2016. His tenure coinciding with the school's transition from uncertainty to stability. And finally, we come to the baby of this first class of inductees, Ralph Beck, the only current member of the 1953 Society not actually alive in 1953. Ralph with us tonight too. Ralph followed his brother Tad's footsteps to CRMS. As a student, Ralph valued how CRMS taught him how to learn, as well as the self-confidence, perseverance, and resilience that is so much a hallmark of our program. Ralph returned to CRMS to serve as a trustee, preceding Gary as board chair from 2000 to 2003. And as we've mentioned, this was a challenging stretch for the school. And the individuals on the board shouldered some very difficult responsibilities and decisions. Ralph's leadership, his expertise in strategic planning, and his efforts as a fundraiser offered significant contributions to this ultimate success. As Colorado Rocky Mountain School looks towards its 75th anniversary celebration in the spring of 2028, we are committed to sharing the school's history with students, alumni families, faculty, and staff. Remembering our history and the legacy of those who have helped found this school will enable us to chart the course for the next 75 years with confidence and thoughtfulness that CRMS has always been and always will be the antidote to modern easy living for students who are full of the spirit of adventure and scholarship. So thank you for all attending and joining us here this evening, for your commitment to Colorado Rocky Mountain School, and for the legacy your family, friends, and colleagues have left on this school. In front of each plaque is a one-of-one token made here in the Mountain Forge commemorating each inductee in the 1953 Society. And you are welcome to take this with you. And thank you for attending tonight, and congratulations to all the members of the 1953 Society. Thank you. So that wraps up tonight, and just linger and stay for as long as you like. Enjoy the desserts if you paused to listen. And again, just a heartfelt thank you and a lot of gratitude for all that you're a part of and for the legacy that your family member contributed to CRMS. We are a strong, healthy school because of all these great people that have come before us. So thank you very much. Okay.